Let's talk about the legacy institutions that failed us. So first off, we're going to talk about the politicians. Now, if you remember, this is all over the news, SBF was the #2 donor to the Democratic Party after George Soros. Now, I've been talking about George Soros for a long time. Lots of other people have as well. Lately, you've been hearing George Soros being talked about by Elon Musk. Elon Musk, I think, was on Joe Rogan, so it got probably hundreds of millions of views, talking about how he was a threat to society and evil, danger, and all these things. So George Soros is the largest donor to the Democratic Party. SBF was the #2 donor. Now, it's been admitted that he was one of the people most responsible for putting Joe Biden in the White House. As a matter of fact, FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried's cryptocurrency exchange, FTX, was created right when Biden announced that he was going to run for president. So it looks like that's pretty interesting. As a matter of fact, on my main YouTube channel, just search Mark Moss, FTX, SBF. I did a video highlighting all of these connections between the time that FTX was created and Joe Biden announcing his campaign, if you want to look into that. Anyway, we know that he was the most responsible for putting Joe Biden in the White House. And we know now that he's convicted that he did this with stolen money. All right. Now, we know other Democrats like Maxine Waters praised FBF for being candid. She welcomed him to testify to Congress even after his fraud was public. Even after we knew that he took all these people's money, tens of billions of dollars, she still invited him in. Maxine Waters isn't just some Democratic politician. She is the chair of the House Financial Services Committee. All right. She's not just some politician, the House Financial Services Committee. She was, quote, surprised that SBF was arrested before he had the prestigious opportunity to make his case before Congress. Why? Why was she surprised? She knew him personally. She had been working closely with him. She was working with him closely on doing what? Capturing the regulatory state. She was putting through a bill that he was helping her with that would have criminalized all the decentralized finance platforms and instead benefited his centralized FTX platform. So he was using the state. They were working together to push a bill to criminalize you for using technology and only be allowed to use his platform. So we know that the politicians failed. Their nominal job is passing laws that are in the best interests of the public. That's you and I. They're supposed to be public servants watching out for us and putting in things that would help us flourish, like having access to technology. But instead, she worked with a known fraudster like Sam Bankman-Fried to instead push a bill that would criminalize you and I for using software and instead push everybody into his pocketbook. Now, how did he accomplish that? Well, he legally bribed them, of course. He legally bribed them by being the second largest donor to the Democratic Party. Now, a few of you guys are going to say, yeah, Mark, he gave some money to Republicans too. He did, a couple. He did, a couple coins went to some Republicans, but they were the Republicans that were on these committees that were pushing his agenda. Don't get caught up in the labels here. Now, SBF legally bribed them by donating to these campaigns. He pushed this legislation that was in his favor. And it would have favored his centralized power over everybody else. Now, he would have succeeded in this. Him and the state, Maxine Waters, would have succeeded if it wasn't for those pesky kids like Scooby-Doo on the internet. Now, the other legacy institution that failed us was the journalist. Now, journalists were supposed to have freedom of the press because the freedom of the press is supposed to keep the transparency of the state open. They're supposed to actually do research, and they're supposed to actually do real journalism that keeps everybody honest, that they know if they do something shady, they're going to be found out and it's going to be exposed. That's why they're protected. But again, legacy journalism failed us. As a matter of fact, not did they just fail us, SBF was the toast of the town in mainstream media. The New York Times, maybe a mouthpiece for the government, was just fawning all over Sam Bankman-Fried. He was their favorite character. And as a matter of fact, even after this all became public, after we found out that he stole billions of dollars from the public, after he took, I don't even know, countless hundreds of thousands of people's savings, Literally, if people broke. Even after that came to public view, the New York Times brought him on to a stage to something called the Deal Book Summit. After they knew he had taken millions or billions, they gave him a loud round of applause to speak to everybody. And it wasn't just that they did this, but they tried to swing public opinion in his favor after already knowing that he ruined people's lives and he stole billions of dollars. Now, if we contrast this to the other coverage that they've had of cryptocurrency, for example, we can see that the media's message for Bitcoin is that Bitcoin's a fraud, Bitcoin uses too much energy, but not SBF, he's a friend. Because look how much money he's given to media outlets. Look how much money he's given to NGOs. As a matter of fact, legacy media even went as far as to call him the JP Morgan of crypto. He was the guy. So the journalists who were supposed to be researching this and bringing this, exposing this to us, they failed. We have trusted legacy media to expose these things. We have trusted legacy media to educate us on these things, but they completely failed in their nominal job of informing the public and instead taking money and then trying to push public opinion. Even after we knew that he took billions of dollars, they continued to put him up into the public. They continued to write nice things about him. And again, they would have succeeded in this if it wasn't for those nosy kids, those pesky kids on the internet. We're going to tell you how those pesky kids did that in a second. Now, we also see that the regulators failed. The regulators are there to regulate people like this so they don't do things like this. As a matter of fact, the main regulator is the SEC, Securities Exchange Commission. Their only role is to protect consumers like you and I. Did they do a good job? Well, $10 billion of consumer funds were stolen right beneath their nose. So would that be a passing grade? Did they protect consumers? Could they plead that they were ignorant about it? Well, again, if you go back and watch the video I did when all this broke through, again, go back to my main YouTube channel, Mark Moss, search Mark Moss and FTX, you'll find it. Gary Gensler is tied directly into the entire FTX fiasco. If you want to see the dots, go back and watch that. Gary Gensler, who's the head of the SEC, whose job is to protect you and I, the consumer, is tied directly into this. Gary Gensler went and met with SBF privately. Now, this is not something that he does normally. This is not something that's given to other projects, but he did meet with SBF.